Welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for all of you. I have on Zoom with me right now Zach Ruchkin, and he played, is it Pug in Smack?
It's Pug, yep.
Awesome. So he played Pug and Smack, and as you can tell, I have the Slasher Scotty shirt on. I have the new microphone set up, so I'm doing it all different, and I'm in my office, not the same original, living room that I'm normally in. So I'm doing it different. And Zach is my guinea pig today to see how this works out. So I'm hoping it works as good as I'm planning it to. But how you doing, Zach?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm so glad that Cody got in touch with me and asked me if I would like to do another interview. I love helping Cody out. Good guy, good friend. So love helping him out as much as I possibly can. And I mean, once he said, "Do you want to have somebody on?" I didn't care who it was. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I would love to help you out, and I'm so glad to have you on.
Thank you. Number one, thank you for moving things around for me because I know like it was scheduled for May,
Yeah.
and it's pretty awesome that it's happening now. And two, I congratulations. I've looked at your YouTube channel and you're
Thanks.
pumping these out. Like it's
Thanks. Yep.
pretty impressive how
Yep.
much you've done in a short time.
A
That's
lot of
pretty
people
fun.
don't realize that how much work goes into this, because I don't just upload it to YouTube. Like, I upload it before I upload it to YouTube. I edit it, put the captions down for the video, then I upload it to YouTube and all that after I save that, and that takes about 30 to 40 minutes to save. And then on top of that, I have to send it to all the podcasting. I have to extract the audio and move out all the podcasting, like all the like podcasting platforms for audio, like Apple
Yeah,
Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify. There's like 25 of them that I have to do, and it usually does it all of them like at once from the hosting provider I use. But yeah, it's pretty crazy, and my audio platforms have a pretty decent listening compared to the YouTube following.
that's great, man.
Thank you. Absolutely. And I'm glad that we could have moved this around. I know I had somebody scheduled for today around your time that we booked this, and they actually had to cancel, and I moved them to your spot in May.
Have fun with that.
Yeah, because I'm booked all the way through May, and I already have a couple of dates in June scheduled. So I'm so glad that I had this spot that came open when you asked, and we were able to make it sooner. So I'm pretty
Yeah.
glad about that. Yeah. So the first question I got for you is, how did you get your start into acting?
Oh boy. Um, okay. First of all the credit goes to my mom
Mhm.
and my middle school acting teacher.
Nice.
So I never wanted to act. I didn't want to do it. I had terrible stage fright um, in middle school, and the way that my school worked, it had like an art program where every quarter you were forced to take an art. We
Mhm.
had like wood shop, theater, singing, and an actual just painting and stuff.
Mhm.
And the only one that I really excelled at was the theater class. And but I had no desire to take that to the stage or on camera or anything. I was cool with the class. I was cool hanging out with my friends.
Mhm.
And yeah, my mom and my theater teacher conspired together to convince me to try out for the middle school play that year, um, which was the complete works of William Shakespeare abridged. So it was an improv show,
Okay.
which made me feel even worse about it because you can't, you know, it's completely unpredictable. Um, so there was some nights of tears and
Yeah.
um, begging. You know, I knew a part of me knew like I should at least try this, but you know, I was hell bent on denying it, and I did it, and it was one of the best experiences of my life, and I've never looked back. So
That's
thank you,
awesome.
mom.
That's awesome. So have you had stage fright just for theater or also for film or both or?
Um, it's weird. Like yes, for both. That's the
Okay.
short answer. Um, but it's different for film, I think, because with theater, you have so much time to rehearse and things
Mhm.
have to kind of, I mean, I know I said this was an improv show, the first show I did, but that's like not typical. Most of the plays that I've done do not involve improv,
Mm-hmm.
and you rehearse and things have to land a certain way.
Yeah.
And by the time you're going to perform in front of people, you have like it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Literally just doesn't matter anymore. There's a little adrenaline going, just with the afterthought of like, okay, here we go. Like this is a one shot. Like it's not like film where if you mess up, you can do another take. But it kind of forces your mind to like really get into it.
Yeah.
Whereas with film, it's like you can have another take and everything, but there's this weird, like almost unfeeling presence of the camera there. It has no reaction. It's just there. And it took a little bit to get used to that idea. But you get used to it. And
and usually with film, you have take after take, but after like 5 takes max, and that's pushing it, a lot of directors are like, come on now, you should have this down, you should have known your lines.
True. The whole idea of like there's a budget and you are kind of like, everything depends on you, and that definitely there's pressure there for sure.
And I'm filming a movie actually at the end of the month, April 30th, May 1st, and then again May 21st and May 22nd, same movie, and I'm the leading role for it, and the script is like 72 pages or so, and I'm on like 55-60 pages, and it's like I don't know how I'm gonna remember. I have the first 20 pages down, but I know kind of an estimate of what we're filming the first weekend, and then the second weekend, but it's like, how am I gonna memorize all this in that time?
Don't overwhelm yourself. Like it definitely, I guess, again, the different, like between theater and film, like you got to break things into chunks. And hopefully like once you get your production schedule, if you probably already have it, or an idea of it, it's always, I don't know, once you start moving into production, you can compartmentalize things a little bit better, but I feel you. That's overwhelming.
I was never big on the theater thing. I love watching theater. Don't get me wrong. I love theater with watching it, but I can't do it. I'm the type of person that if I mess up, if I'm on theater, like on stage doing it, I'm going to curse. I'm going to be like, fuck. and then everybody's going to know I messed up. Where
that's happened before. Not to me, but to a friend of mine, who was, oh my God, it was, I won't say the name, but it was Arsenic and Old Lays. And there's a scene, I was playing Jonathan, and who's for people who don't know, is like a sociopath, who like has done significant amounts of facial reconstruction to hide the fact that he's killed a bunch of people, et cetera, et cetera. And his alcoholic sidekick, Einstein, is like a mad scientist. Anyway, so him and I are like trying to get through this window, and his pants got like caught on the window seat, and like he leaned into it funny, and like the wood went straight into his groin. And he couldn't help it. He just was like, fucking hell, like, and this was in high school, like that doesn't fly. But the audience loved it. Of course they thought it was part of it. But you just gotta roll with it. Don't look back.
And that's usually how it is in theater. If you mess up, like, of course there's no takes because it's live in front of an audience, and like if you mess up, the other actors kind of got to improv depending how you messed up, and kind of work in their next line without making it sound weird. And the actor has to make it look like he or she never messed up to begin with.
Exactly. And it's such a weird dynamic too, because like I've been in plays where the director's like, do not add a line. If you add there's a copyright thing going on with this, and if you add a line, like we'll get screwed over and all this stuff. But it's like, okay, but what if something happens and we have to address it? Like we can't just ignore, somebody like falling flat on their face by accident on stage. So it's weird.
It really is. So you were in Smack, which is directed by Alice, and Cody is the lead role, and I'm pretty sure he wrote it if I'm not mistaken. So how did you happen to get involved with Smack?
Um, so I was on set for We Own the City sometime in the summer,
Okay.
and my scene partner Paula Black, um, she we were in a like really like pretty quick scene together.
Mhm.
I'd never met her before,
Mhm.
um, and we were playing like essentially drug addicts being
Mhm.
arrested by the police. And I remember like I don't remember if it was actually that day or maybe later, but she mentioned, she was like, "Oh, I know a guy who's doing a film about like drug related things, and he's looking for like a real drug addict, like a
Mhm.
cracked out character."
Mhm.
Um, and I just was like, you know what? I'm all for that. Send me the information, and it kind of just it
Nice.
worked out.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, and for those that are wondering, I all my other interviews with Smack, I stated what it was, and Smack is basically a love story between people that are on drugs.
Yes, a wonderful love story.
Yeah, it's really in depth. I don't know much about it. I seen the trailer. I know what everybody told me. And I'm so excited to see this movie because it is so intense. It really involves drug usage and how it's
Mhm.
affecting the world.
Yeah.
So your character Pug, what can obviously you mentioned he's a drug dealer or a drug user, but what who is he really? Like what is he about? What's his plot in this movie?
Pug is kind of like, I mean, so Dean is the main character, and
Hmm.
he's someone who's kind of, um, I guess, uh, how do I, he he's sympathetic.
Hmm.
Dean is sympathetic, even though he's using and like he's kind of
Hmm.
involving his girlfriend and everything. Pug is the devil on Dean's shoulder,
Okay.
basically, I would say.
Okay.
Um, and even though I use that analogy to describe him, I wouldn't say that he's evil.
Right.
I think that he is like someone who is so got himself like, this is somebody who lives and breathes like this lifestyle and would never consider even like attempting to recover
Okay.
from what he's doing. I think he's very blinded by, um, you know, well, he's blinded by his drug use, but yeah, morality just kind of goes down the drain too, along
Yeah.
with that, with Pug. And um, yeah, he'll be a character that I think people will um, love to hate and hate to love, because he also is kind of funny in some
Okay.
ways, but like it for the most part, I mean, he's just a real piece of shit.
Yeah, that's really how some drug dealers are, and drug users are. They are like that, and that's what I love about this movie because it's not one of those, like stereotypical drug films, that cover the topic and don't do a good job at it. Like the actors told me, I saw the trailer. Like this movie is, in fact, a movie that covers the drug usage and the legitimacy about it and how it affects people and this country.
For sure. It's very gritty. It's
Yeah.
very, I mean, it's an indie film. Like
Yeah.
we have, and Cody has a lot of room to like add things that Hollywood
Hmm.
stuff wouldn't necessarily want to go near. But
Right.
um
And
and
that's what
I
makes
do,
indie films great. That's what
yeah,
makes indie
and I
films
think
great
it's
because you don't
important.
have you're not tied down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And I think, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how it all comes together.
That's awesome. So, what was it like working with Cody?
Working with Cody was, and like, it was an experience.
Mhm.
It's hard to know like how things, obviously like he talked to me a lot before
Mhm.
like me like being on set
Yeah.
and pumping this up, but it was incredible how many hats this man can wear at one time. And it's like he was, and also not to mention is the lead character. So it's like there's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. But I think for the most part, he handled it very well on set, and was truly able to like maintain that positive love of filmmaking
Yeah.
and be able to kind of deliver the performance of someone
Mhm.
complex as Dean, which is a testament.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I know personally as being an indie filmmaker how much stress it can take on one's body, and let alone
Yeah.
Cody being writer, producer on top of the lead character. And it's not like he's a supporting or a small role where he just makes a cameo and it's like whatever, like this character's whatever, and then I can focus behind the scenes. Like he's the main guy. Like if you don't like his character and he doesn't do a good job and doesn't get everything down, this movie is fucked from the beginning. And like
Yeah,
he has
and
a
it's
lot of
he's
pressure.
producing it, so it's like,
Yes.
yeah, it's that is a lot of pressure. It makes
Yeah.
me anxious thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It really is. And I mean, I seen his fan film before. He's a great film, and he directed that great film. And I seen him in that Halloween fan film as well, and he did great on that. So I'm really excited to see what he does on this. And I mean, your character is like you said, he's that devil on his shoulder. He's egging him on, or he's like telling him like this really is good. Do this, you know.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine like because I've never done drugs, so I don't know, but I can only imagine somebody that is doing drugs, and you have and you say you want to get the help, but you have this person egging you on how good it is, and it's like you can't get the help you need.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
once, I mean, especially with something like heroin,
yeah,
once you do it, it's like, well,
yeah,
you're gonna want to do it again. Like, it
yeah,
doesn't matter who you are.
yeah,
So yeah, once
yeah.
once you're over that ledge, yeah.
Absolutely. So, what was the best part about filming Smack, and what about the worst?
So okay, well, that's a good question. The best part, I think, and this goes for Smack, and this goes for a lot of the films that I've been
Hmm.
fortunate to work on, is like the collaboration between
Hmm.
everyone, because it's an indie film and
Right.
there's not this like super stringent hierarchy where you
Yeah.
have to kind of keep your mouth shut and like,
Hmm.
you know um and Alice Bosca, the director,
Hmm.
she let us have, she kind of, I mean, her direction was unfucking real. Um, and a large part of that was letting us kind of figure out the scenes and then tuning from there. It wasn't
Yeah.
like, okay, you're gonna do this specific way, like she didn't confine us in a box.
Hmm.
And that goes for like the entirety of the production. There was one day or one night uh, that was like a beautiful, like it just encapsulated independent filmmaking, like
Hmm.
like completely. Where like we were shooting in this tunnel, and
Hmm.
there's like a train station above us,
Right.
and I remember Cody was like, "Yeah, we need to get a shot of like an establishing shot
Hmm.
of the train station and whatever." And every like 20 minutes, a freight train would go by, and we were all like, "Yeah, it did suck for audio reasons, but
Yeah.
but um,
That was my thought. Like, oh,
yeah,
that poor audio person.
yeah, the audio, that was a nightmare, but it was like we were all like, oh, but what if we do the establishing shot like when the
Mhm.
train is going, and we have us like walking like next to the train. And I remember like we were like, yeah, that's, that's a good idea, like we'll think about it, and then we're like in the middle of a take, and the take is like,
Mhm.
okay, it's like going all right, it's not the best take, and we
Right.
can hear the train in the distance, and we all kind of like look at each other, we're like, let's get it, we got to get
Nice.
it. So it just, that was, I think, the best part. It was just a good, collaborative effort
Nice.
throughout the production. The worst part, um, the worst part was definitely, and this is a personal thing.
Okay.
I have a very hard time with late nights,
Okay.
and that just kind of goes hand in hand with
Hmm.
independent filmmaking.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's going to be late nights, and that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
But I have a very, very hard time, and especially, I mean, we're filming in Virginia, and I live in Baltimore, so it
Hmm.
was like, okay, if we're going till like 3 a.m., I'm not getting home till 4:30,
Right.
and it didn't happen that often, but there was a lot of night shoots, and
Hmm.
that just happens.
Yeah.
And it's just the name of
Yeah.
the game.
Yep, absolutely. And especially when you're doing like a horror movie, like a
Yeah.
part of being in a horror movie is night shoots. Like that's what
Yep.
makes it scary.
Yeah.
That's when most of it happens. And even though Smack isn't a horror movie, like I mean, it's dealing with drugs, and a lot, when do people do drugs? Sometimes during the day, but they mostly do it at night. That's when it happens. Like,
Well, there's that, and
mhm,
yeah, I mean, a lot of it, it's it's really hard to know how long a shoot is going to take
yeah,
until you're on set,
yeah,
and then you're like, okay, this
yep,
shot that we thought was going to take 10 minutes is going to take a half hour, and then
yeah,
that goes for kind of everything.
yep,
um and it's just like a live and learn experience.
yeah,
It's just, I've been there.
yep,
And it's unique. It's kind of,
yeah.
it also is kind of fun getting there's there comes an hour in the night where everybody just kind of gets loopy, and like we kind of have a good time anyway.
Yeah,
So um
yeah.
you get to have a lot of those experiences. But that's, I think, again, going back to theater, the one leg up theater has on film is
Hmm.
you're doing a matinee, and maybe your night performance ends at 9 p.m. So that's nice. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but I was on some sets where we would be doing day and night shoots, and we
Ooh.
would be on set for 8 o'clock in the morning, and the day shoots wouldn't be done literally like this close to sundown, that we would have like a half an hour left before we have to shoot until
Oh
like 3 or 4 in the
man,
morning. So we would at least do like 17, 18 hour days.
that's when you join a union.
Yeah. That was actually probably that was my movie, that my first movie we did, because we were running out of scheduling, because as we said,
Yeah.
in an indie film, time is money, and you have a schedule, and this is a Halloween type movie, so we had to film it in the fall for an authentic
Gotta,
Halloween setting.
yeah,
And
you gotta tough it out. You just gotta
yeah,
get through it.
yeah, I think we only had like one, maybe two of those days out of like a 4 month shoot. But regardless, like sometimes that does happen. Like, and we didn't expect it to take that long. We expected to be done, start at 8 and be done by maybe 1 or 2, and then get our lunch and then chill out, and then be ready to roll for the night shoot. But sometimes things take longer than expected in any instance, and you can't
Yeah.
plan for that. You just gotta roll.
Yeah, as long as you had food, that is good.
Yep, absolutely. So, when you first saw the script, Smack, what were your initial thoughts on that?
Oh man, how is this gonna get made?
Yeah,
That's my initial thought. But jokes aside, uh, I mean, I did think it was very ambitious,
yeah,
because, like we were talking about earlier, it is not very Hollywood. It's very
yeah.
gritty, um, and that is difficult to do.
Yeah,
That is
very
really
sensitive
difficult to do.
subject.
Yes,
Yeah,
around a sensitive subject that a lot of people, um, hold near and dear to their heart
yeah,
for a variety of reasons.
yeah.
Um, and I also looked at it as a challenge,
Mhm.
because the the character itself, um, it seemed like I could see that, yes, this guy, I mean, people are not going to like this guy, but there is,
Mhm.
like I was mentioning earlier, there's something in him that,
Yeah,
like there was a kid once, you know what I mean?
yeah.
There was something in there,
Mhm.
uh And you might not see that
Right.
like depicted in the film, but at least that's kind of where I was coming from when I
Mhm.
agreed to take the role, because
Right.
I don't like the idea of kind of just making it or thinking about it as like just a blanket archetype. Like this is a
Mhm.
person.
Yeah.
Um,
This is a person. He was a kid once. He's a son. He's
yeah,
a nephew. He's a grandson. Maybe even a brother. So it's like this is a normal human being that you know
bad circumstances.
had a bad choice that ended up
Yeah,
leading to a bad choice and disease that ultimately took control of him.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough. So what do you believe is the most challenging part about being an actor?
Um, oh man. Oh God. Probably, I mean, for me, I think I have my brain overworks itself a lot.
Mhm.
You
I
know,
know
I
that
I
feeling.
think I think a lot,
Yeah.
and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it makes connecting with material like
Mhm.
scripts a little bit harder
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
because I like it just makes it more difficult to live in the moment, and
Yeah.
that's kind of where you find good acting is just
Yeah.
actual just reaction
Yep.
to what's happening and
Yep.
listening, and it's kind of like training yourself to get into that
Yeah.
mode. um and yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's probably the hardest thing for me.
Right. Would you agree that memorizing a script too much can hurt a production or a performance?
Yeah. I do because for me, I like, especially with film, since things are broken down into smaller chunks.
Hmm.
I mean, I typically take one look at the script, um, and then record the lines
Hmm.
and listen to them. And
Hmm.
that kind of takes me out of like the visualization of the
Hmm.
lines. Like I'm not thinking about them.
Hmm.
They're just kind of there.
Yeah.
Um, and it's almost on the cusp. Like I always feel like I'm on the cusp of not knowing
Yeah.
my lines.
Yeah.
But especially in film, it helps insofar as sometimes you feel a different way and you say
Yeah.
some shit that isn't written, but it turns out to be, it
Yeah.
works for the scene.
Right.
And yeah, so but that being said, I will say, like, if you're doing, I've done Shakespeare before,
Hmm.
and if you're doing Shakespeare, then God help you, you better be
Yeah.
memorized.
Yeah.
And that was an instance where it's like, okay, I'm going
Yeah.
to stare at this. I'm going to, I'm going to, absorb every word and
Yep.
what possible meaning it has
Yeah.
as much as possible.
That's my issue is that I mean I listen to it sometimes just to get the gist of where I speak, like the moments, and then repeat it back to see if I got it. Now, like I said earlier, I memorized the first 20 pages of the movie that I'm in.
Mhm.
But then when I have somebody reading the other person's parts and I'm doing mine, you could tell I'm thinking what the words are, and you can't think what the words are. You got to let it come out naturally. And that's where it gets me the most. That's where the overthinking comes into play, because I'm trying to think what the words are instead of being natural. And if I miss a sentence here or there, it's like, okay, whatever. It's not a big deal, but you want to get the gist of what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's kind of mind blowing when you really, when you see how many films out there,
Mhm.
like iconic scenes from films
Yeah.
were either improvised
Yeah.
or just weren't uh spot on with the
Right.
dialogue. They just veered
Yeah.
off a little bit
Yeah.
because that's what the actors were feeling in the moment,
Yeah.
and they just
Yeah.
happened to capture it.
And that's perfect sense. And I mean that's where a lot of actors need to take note. Like you don't have to have the script memorized word for word unless that's what the director wants. But like you should have a general understanding of what you say, where you say it, and how you say it, and the moment of what you're saying, and then kind of play off of your co-stars and kind of have fun with it, go with it.
For sure. Be prepared for
Yeah.
anything.
Yep, absolutely. So before I get into the last question, I just want to tell everybody to go to Wet Paint Pictures on their YouTube channel and check out the Smack trailer, because I'm guaranteeing you will have, if you have hair on the back of your neck, it will stand up. Because mine did, and it was great. It was really well done. It really made me believe what was happening. I won't spoil anything in the trailer, but if you haven't seen it yet, go and check it out. So last question I got for you: do you have anything that you want to promote, projects, social media, websites, or anything at all that you would like to promote to the listening viewing audience? Your time.
You can follow me on Instagram at Z Ruchkin, just ZRUCHKIN. I do have a short film of
Okay.
my own that I don't know when it'll be. I don't know when it'll be released. I don't know when I'm going to screen it. I don't know when I'm going to start submitting. But keep that. I will post something on Instagram
Okay.
about it when I'm closer. I literally today just got the post sound
Nice.
back, so I'm excited to give that a listen and throw it into the timeline.
Awesome.
So there's that. It's called Jesse.
Okay.
And then I'm also currently editing a indie feature called Starstruck, which is written and directed by a friend of mine, Kenny Brossois.
Okay.
It's kind of up to me, I guess, when that finishes, because I'm editing it.
Yep.
But I imagine it'll be sometime this year or very early next year or something like that.
Awesome.
Kenny, I promise it'll be done soon.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan. And stay tuned to Zach on his Instagram to see when they're released. I mean, when you're editing and making movies, I mean, usually production is the shortest aspect of things. Pre-production and post-production are the longest. And especially post-production, because then you come across and you're like, shit, this doesn't look the way it should look. Now I got to refilm it.
Yeah.
So sometimes that happens. So stay tuned. I'm sure they'll be out when they are, and let me know when they are, and I will promote them for you as well and get the word out as well.
I appreciate that, man.
Yep.
Thank you.
Awesome. Not a problem. You have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, absolutely. You too.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.